We were gone for 3 full weeks in June, and I was pretty tired when we got back from that. I'm still editing those videos. I think I'm only through day 18 right now. I'm working on editing the day that we spent in Yellowstone, which is probably going to be the longest video of the series because there's just so much to see in Yellowstone. But I wanted to record my garden while it's midsummer. Once we got back from our road trip, there was a really busy week of catching up in the garden, getting potato harvesting done. And then I haven't been in here hardly at all. My husband has been the one mowing and weed eating since we got back in the garden. And I've really only come out here to either take care of like significant weed sections or to harvest stuff. I haven't touched anything. That's not true. No, I did plant a few seeds a week when we were going to have like rain multiple days. I just put seeds in the ground one day and let God water it. And the garden's actually looking not ignored. It's looking like someone's in here all the time doing stuff, and I'm not. But this is what it's looking like here, July 1st, 2025, in my ignored garden. What we're looking at right here is wall bed number 1. And at the beginning of the year, that had spinach, lettuce, kale in it. And right now it's got winter squash. I don't remember which kind. Actually, I do. It's pumpkin. I did a New England pumpkin, I believe, there. And then I've got 3 or 4 pepper plants on the end next to the squash. It's early morning out, so I apologize if it's a little dark. I'll try to get better angles. I just don't have time to be out here during the day, and plus it's going to be very, very hot. If I am out here, I'm going to be in the pool. So wall bed 2 had potatoes earlier in the year, and I think what I'm going to put in them next are green beans. I haven't done any green beans this year because I knew I wouldn't have time earlier when we were gone. And I'm thinking I can get decent sized harvest in before fall. This corner bed was empty at the beginning of the season because I knew I was going to put tomatoes in. Look, I have a cage fallen over. Let me see if I can get that up. I have had to do that repair on several different tomato plants already this summer. I have not gotten in there to harvest Romas for a while. Ooh, there's a bunch in there I can see. We had onions in here earlier. It's empty now. I'm going to try and put some peas in here. I've never had success with fall peas. I think I've only tried once. But understanding the cycle of peas now, I'm going to give it a try one more time. Usually spring is the only time I can successfully get peas. But I have an extra bed. So why not? Wall bed 5 has strawberries. I'm not going to keep this variety. This will be killed this fall. We'll weed eat it and then cover it with compost. I don't have plans for anything else to go in here right now. This is the remnants of the calendula plants that I had in here this summer. Don't have any other plans for it right now. Maybe something simple like lettuce. This is where the peas were in the spring, and I'm going to fill this with carrots for the fall. Hoping to seed these tomorrow or Sunday. The weather's going to be nice and cool. Just add another little layer of compost. So I started this summer with the onions on the front side of that bed and the peppers here in the back. The onions were harvested. You can see a few remnants that got forgotten. And some volunteer potatoes came up over here and I never harvested them. This is the sweet potato bed. That's so dark. You see it better? That's the sweet potato bed in wall bed 9. And they are growing down and into this bed. I think I'm going to have to get the kids out here to clip those. I don't really want them taking over and doing any harm to the peppers. Cucumbers on their last leg. The asparagus is big and hairy and happy. Strawberry bed, completely ignored. This is probably the worst looking bed here. The strawberries look like a lot of them have died. I have not watered these during our weeks of upper 90s, even though we've had significant rain. It's a big, massive weed growing there. Let's get that thing pulled, but I'm not going to do it now. Another giant weed. A few surviving strawberries. So that's the state of this bed. Planning to empty this bed out completely before fall and probably transplant strawberries that I like in here. We don't like this variety. This bed was empty at the beginning of spring, and I planted a watermelon in here when we got back from our road trip. Wall bed 12. This is the same variety that is in the overrun bed I just showed you. We didn't care for these strawberries. They have taken up space 2 years now to find that out. This morning my husband's going to come in and weed eat all this down, and then we're going to cover it in compost. And for the fall, I'm going to have kale and bok choy growing in here in the next week or two. This is a purslane weed, and these are the watermelons. That's a weed. These are the watermelons that were planted in here before our road trip. We've gotten 3 huge watermelon off of here. Gavin is gonna check that over, and if he doesn't see any more watermelon, I don't think I see any, he's gonna weed eat that down too and just refill this whole bed. We had broccoli in here in the spring, and that was just a little calendula plant that I tucked in. And I'm planning to put spinach in here, probably in September. This was a calendula bed. It'll probably become more spinach. This was a broccoli bed. It will become more spinach. And this had spinach in the spring. It overwintered in this little short section. And all the rest is the strawberry variety that we actually like. So I'm gonna transplant all these babies, fill this bed up with the good strawberries. Any extra babies I'm going to start transplanting in the metal bed. In the end cap here we had calendula and sage. I've ripped all of it out. That's the last little bit of surviving sage from that plant. The rest had died back. So that's how stuff is looking in the walls. And now we'll go look at the raised beds in the ground, ground beds. So if you were here in the spring, you know I really struggled to get tomato plants started. I normally have close to 60 tomato plants, and this year I don't have that many. It's maybe 20, 30 tops if you include the volunteers, and I can't even pick from all the volunteers because a lot of them are just laying on the ground now and it's hard to get to the tomatoes. But this is what ground beds 1 through 8 are looking like right now. Look, that's a dead parsley plant. And those are some peppers that will probably not produce anything because they were so small and they took so long to get started. A basil and some cherry tomato plants that I did actually plant here, but I never staked up. I was hoping I could get them on the wall, but I just wasn't here to do it when they were little, and I haven't cared since I got back. And then, and these beds are all just going to be basil and tomatoes. So I have been getting a nice harvest. We've been eating fresh. I actually cooked some tomatoes up yesterday to make sauce for lasagna for our Sabbath lunch. So I'm not going to be having a huge canning year this year with the tomatoes, and that's fine because I don't have time to do it. But I am getting to eat fresh tomatoes. And tomatoes are really only good fresh from the garden, especially vine ripened. They just don't taste good in the grocery store. Looks like I will be doing some more cooking, but it's probably just going to be used for fresh eating this summer. Here's the other side of the aromas. I'm going to have to get in there and get that stuff. So you know what tomatoes look like. I don't have to walk down every row. You can see where I did not get them pinned up on the cattle trellis wall like I wanted to. I have on my map inside what types of tomatoes all of these are. I just don't remember right now. Some pepper plants that are doing better. And hopefully we'll get something good from there. Look like pimentos probably. This is ground bed 9 in front of me, and this was potatoes in the spring. And now, oh my. So the controlled looking end has a winter squash in it. I forget the name. It's a big white squash. And some volunteer peppers back there in that corner. Some purposefully planted peppers here. And then I've got purslane going a little bit wild there. I know it's a weed to almost everyone, but purslane's actually very nutritious. It is the land plant that has the highest amount of omega-3s in it. So I have been clipping off the tops and putting them in smoothies. We had them in a saute this week with broccoli and carrots and peppers. And you don't know they're there. They're really good for you. They don't have a bad taste. They're just different. Kind of lemony. We've got a basil plant that I have let go to seed here for the beads. The rest of my basil I'm keeping clipped for pesto making. I'm keeping the seeds from forming, but that one I have let go. That was a volunteer plant. Volunteer plants are actually the best ones to collect seeds from, as long as they aren't the type of plant to cross-pollinate, because you know those seeds are used to your area, your environment, your climate, and they'll do well. So I'm going to get some seeds from that. And everything else in this bed, that's a tomato plant anyway, is a volunteer tomato plant. Did not plant any of these. I will probably be ripping them out because I don't like that the weeds, you really can't see them really well, but the weeds can kind of go wild amongst the tomato plants because I can't get in there and pull them. So I'm probably going to get this all ripped out in the next week or two. Hopefully clear this bed out, and I don't really have plans for it for the fall. It might just be empty. Actually, if I can get it cleaned out in the next week, I will put some zinnia plants in just to see if I can get another fall bloom of zinnias. Basil, volunteer tomato plant. I did put a cage around that when it was little in the spring. A pepper plant that I am surprised is doing that well. Echinacea, I've been harvesting lots of flowers and making tincture since we got back. I've never had an echinacea plant that's gotten this big and bloomed this nicely, so that was exciting for me this year. Basil. This bed was all onions and cauliflower in the spring, and now it is all spaghetti squash. I think I have a total of 10 plants, and I skipped this section down here for some reason. Oh, I ran out of seeds. I used all my seeds, and I didn't space them out, the plants, well enough up here. And when I got to the end, I was like, well, let me space my plants out a little better. So there's a gap there. If the squash bugs don't destroy everything, the plants will just spread everywhere and fill it in. We just clip the plants at the edge when they come out. We mow them or clip them unless we can push them back into the bed and have them grow nicely. So there's the sweet potatoes going crazy in the background. All right, 4 more beds to go. Ground bed 11 had our garlic, which basically failed this spring in it, and it was supposed to be empty the rest of summer, but I've let the volunteer tomatoes stay in here. It's going to have cauliflower in the next week, so I am going to go ahead and get this stuff ripped out because I want to get the cauliflower seed in the ground. Even though I feel like I'm a little bit late for that, I'm going to try it anyway. If this had been a normal summer, this whole bed would have been tomatoes, but because I knew we were going to be traveling and I wouldn't have time to care for things as well and use the produce, I just turned this into a flower bed. So we've got sunflowers in the back and zinnias in the middle. Nothing else that I planted came up as far as flowers go. I thought these were flowers. You can't see them now, they're gone, but it ended up being bok choy. I knew when those seeds came up, I said, those are not flowers when I was looking at them. But that's a volunteer tomato plant that I did put a cage around. And when we got back from our trip, I put some more watermelon in because I knew the first watermelon batch that I had back there, you know, it doesn't last all summer. So hopefully we'll get some fall watermelon or late summer. Ground bed 13 originally had potatoes, 13 and 14. Both these had potatoes in them. They're empty now. I've just been pulling like the big weeds out, but I need to get in here and hoe up the rest of this and rip the seeds. A lot of these weeds, you find that if you just rake the dirt and leave the weed laying on top of the dirt, it like reroots itself. So I really have to get in there and the kids help, and we just pull out everything by hand. We can put it in a bucket and take it to the chickens, or we just throw it in the grass and mow over it. But these are easy. I've gotten the bigger stuff out. These little guys will come out real quick. Because in these former potato beds, planning to put, let's see, cauliflower in this one and broccoli in that one, or vice versa. Doesn't matter. But if I can get another harvest this fall, that would be great. Because we were gone for 3 weeks in June, we still have frozen broccoli and frozen cauliflower from the spring that we haven't gotten to. We haven't eaten it all yet. So I'm thrilled to still have plenty of that. So the sun's coming up. Gotta get it out of the way so my husband can do the weed eating. He's gonna refill that wall with compost for me. But that's what it's looking like July 31st in my ignored garden. Not too bad. Keep telling myself it's still perfectly manageable. I'll get to everything when it needs to be gotten to. I just really want to get seeds in the ground when the temperatures drop tomorrow and Sunday. I'll give myself Friday and Sunday. Those are my goals, to get all the seeds in the ground. So we'll see. Feet after walking in the garden this morning. Lots of nice grass clippings everywhere. I remembered to prepare ahead of time and had a foot bath waiting for me when I came in the door so that I could rinse all those grass shavings off my feet and not carry them in the house. Gavin found one more watermelon hiding in that patch we just looked at. That's a crimson sweet, and they sure are sweet. Good morning, Bruce. Good morning. Thanks for stopping by to share in the memories of how our garden is looking July 31st, 2025. We've heard whispers that we might have a fall-like August. That would be heavenly. I look forward to being in the garden and not turning into a giant ball of sweat. Us boring country folk took a 24-day road trip this summer from Virginia to California and back. If you want to see how that went, here's the playlist. You can follow along and I will keep uploading the videos as I finish them.